The Regal Windsor Hotel stood in downtown New York City, worn and tired. Its golden revolving doors were tarnished, and the grand marble floors were hidden beneath faded carpets. It looked like a forgotten relic. But as I held the keys, I saw a chance to rebuild everything Grandma Margaret had cherished. "Olivia!" a voice called, dripping with false sympathy. I turned to see Aunt Caroline stepping out of her black Mercedes, her high heels avoiding the cracked sidewalk. Edward, my cousin, followed, his face smug and calculating. "We're having a family dinner tonight to discuss the estate," Caroline said, feigning kindness. "I'm sure you'll be reasonable about this." "There's nothing to discuss," I replied, keeping my voice firm. "Grandma Margaret left the hotel to me." "A bankrupt hotel," Edward scoffed. "Face it, Olivia, she lost her mind at the end. This place is worthless." I looked at the faded grandeur of the Regal Windsor. It had been losing money for years, at least on paper. But I knew Grandma Margaret was too smart to let her legacy fall apart. Something didn't add up. Caroline's voice broke through my thoughts. "Don't be late for dinner," she called, her smile cold. "And Olivia, try to dress appropriately." I watched them leave, knowing exactly what they planned. They wanted me to sell, and they would try to pressure me into it tonight. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not until I knew the truth. I stepped inside the hotel, the air heavy with dust and memories. The lobby was dark, the chandeliers covered in cobwebs. Yet, beneath the decay, I could still see the beauty of what once was. "Miss Olivia!" a familiar voice called out, and I turned to see Thomas, the old bellhop who had been here forever. His face lit up with a warm smile. "Thomas," I greeted. "How many staff stayed?" 12 of us, he answered, his voice steady. "We didn't know what would happen after Mrs. Margaret passed. You did the right thing by staying," I told him, grateful for his loyalty. "Is her office still sealed?" "Just as she left it," he confirmed. "Though, your cousin Edward tried to get in last week. Said he was doing inventory." I wasn't surprised. Edward was always after something, and he didn't care who he had to step on to get it. But if he was sniffing around Grandma's office, then I needed to get there first. I climbed the stairs to the mezzanine, my heart heavy as I reached the door. Grandma Margaret's office overlooked the lobby, a place where I had spent so many afternoons as a child, watching her work. She taught me about business, about people, about seeing the truth behind numbers. I pushed the door open. Everything was just as she left it, the massive oak desk, the shelves lined with leather-bound ledgers, and the old safe in the corner. But something was different. The safe, always closed in my memories, was slightly open. My heart raced. I remembered the combination. She had taught me on my 16th birthday, saying, "Every hotel needs its secrets, Olivia, and every secret needs a keeper." The numbers were special dates, the hotel's opening, my grandfather's birthday, and the day she paid off the mortgage. I turned the dial, the numbers clicking into place. When the lock released, I opened the heavy door, finding a false back. Carefully, I pressed the panel, and it clicked, revealing a leather-bound ledger and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My fingers trembled as I opened the envelope, reading her familiar handwriting. "Dear Olivia, if you're reading this, then everything has gone according to plan. Everyone believes the Regal Windsor is failing, and that's exactly what I wanted them to think. But the truth is, this hotel is more valuable than anyone could imagine, but not in the way they'd expect." I kept reading, her words revealing the truth. "I chose you because you see things others don't. You understand that numbers tell stories. That's why I left this hotel to you, not just because you're my granddaughter, but because you're the only one who can protect its secrets." My eyes widened as I opened the ledger. It was a balance sheet, but not like any I'd ever seen. The Regal Windsor wasn't losing money. It was incredibly profitable. But the income wasn't from hotel guests. It came from numbered accounts linked to something called Project Renaissance. The coded entries were connected to payments from Swiss banks and other secret sources. This wasn't just creative accounting. Grandma Margaret had created a hidden financial empire, and she had hidden it in plain sight. Then I saw her final note. "The real treasure isn't in the numbers, Olivia. It's in what the numbers are protecting. Find the basement key. Everything else will make sense then." The basement? There was no basement on any of the building's blueprints. My mind raced, trying to piece it together. If she kept this ledger secret, then it made sense she'd have a hidden room, too. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Caroline. Dinner in an hour. The family has a generous offer for that old building of yours. Don't be late. I could almost hear her smug voice in the words. They thought they could push me into selling, but they didn't know what I knew. I texted back, "Sorry, can't make it. Too busy being poor and worthless." I smiled, knowing that would infuriate her. But I didn't have time to play games. I had a secret basement to find. I locked the safe, making sure everything was exactly as Grandma had left it. If Edward came snooping again, he wouldn't find anything. I headed downstairs, my mind spinning as I looked for the only person who could help me. "Thomas?" I called, finding him by the front desk. "Did Grandma Margaret ever mention a basement?" His eyes widened, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Only she went down there. There's a private elevator in the service area. Edward tried to find it, but he gave me a sly smile. I may have forgotten to tell him where it was." I followed Thomas to a hidden hallway. He pulled back an old panel, revealing a keypad with a faint engraving. "Every story needs a foundation." I punched in the same numbers I used for the safe, and the wall slid open, revealing a hidden elevator. My heart raced as I stepped inside, the doors closing behind me. The elevator shuddered, then began to descend, going deeper than I thought possible. When the doors opened, my jaw dropped. This wasn't a basement. It was a museum, filled with artifacts, paintings, and historical documents, all perfectly preserved. Each piece was labeled with detailed notes about its origin and history. I walked down the aisles, my mind spinning. Grandma Margaret wasn't just running a hotel. She was preserving history, hiding something the world was never meant to see. Then a voice echoed through the room. "Impressive, isn't it?" I spun around to see an older man, his suit sharp and his eyes wise. "I've been waiting for you, Olivia. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman, and she trusted you to carry on her legacy." I stared at the man standing before me, his calm presence filling the room. He looked like he belonged here among the ancient artifacts and priceless paintings, as if he were a part of this secret world. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice echoing off the cold walls. He stepped forward, his expression warm. "Dr. Henry Monroe, your grandmother's partner in Project Renaissance. And I've been waiting a long time to meet you." My heart raced. Project Renaissance? What is this place? What was Grandma Margaret doing down here? A knowing smile spread across his face. She was doing what no one else could. She was correcting history. I blinked, confusion swirling in my mind. Correcting history? How? Dr. Monroe gestured to the rows of shelves around us, filled with art, sculptures, and ancient documents. During World War II, countless cultural treasures were stolen, paintings, manuscripts, heirlooms. Some were lost forever. Others ended up in private collections through illegal means. Your grandmother made it her mission to find them and return them to their rightful owners. I looked around, the truth slowly sinking in. She was. Returning stolen art? Yes. He nodded. And the Regal Windsor was her perfect cover. The hotel's public image of failing finances hid her true work, Project Renaissance, a global operation dedicated to recovering lost heritage. I walked down the aisles, taking in the magnitude of her mission. She wasn't just preserving history, she was restoring it. But why all the secrecy? Dr. Monroe's face grew serious. Because if the wrong people found out, they would have tried to profit from it. People like your Aunt Caroline and cousin Edward. I felt a chill run down my spine. Of course, they never cared about the hotel's legacy. They only wanted the money. That's why she made it look like the hotel was bankrupt. He nodded again, respect evident in his eyes. She let them believe it was worthless, so they wouldn't dig deeper. She knew you would see the truth behind the numbers. I looked at the shelves lined with cultural treasures, each one carefully labeled. So the loss is on paper. Carefully crafted, Dr. Monroe explained. The losses were actually operating costs, security, transportation, authentication, all to safely return these pieces to the families they were stolen from. I turned to face him, a new sense of admiration swelling inside me. Grandma Margaret was brilliant, a mastermind who played everyone, even her own family, to protect something bigger than herself. What do I do now? A proud smile crossed his face. You continue her work. I felt the weight of my responsibility settling on my shoulders. I had inherited more than just a hotel. I had inherited her mission, her legacy. "There's one more thing you need to see," Dr. Monroe said, leading me back to the hidden elevator. "Room 1314. I remembered the letter's instructions. "Go to room 1314 at midnight. Everything will make sense then." I followed him up to the top floor, my heart racing as we reached the grand suite. It looked like any other luxury room, but as Dr. Monroe pushed a hidden panel, the walls shifted, revealing a secret control center. "This is where your grandmother ran everything," he explained. Room 1314 was more than just a suite. It was her command center, a place where she could meet with families privately and verify their claims. He showed me the hidden technology, scanners for authenticating paintings, high-resolution screens for verifying documents, and a small lab where artifacts were tested for authenticity. I was stunned by how advanced it all was. I touched the control panel, feeling a deep connection to the woman who built this. She did all this for people she never even met? Dr. Monroe's eyes softened. She believed that everyone deserved to know their story, to reconnect with their past. She gave them that chance. I looked at the photos lining the wall. Black and white pictures of families standing beside priceless paintings, their faces bright with joy. My eyes blurred with tears. She wasn't just preserving history, she was healing families. A soft buzz pulled me from my thoughts. I glanced at my phone. It was a text from Edward. "You missed dinner. Last chance to be reasonable. We're contesting the will tomorrow morning. This hotel is coming down." I felt a surge of anger. They weren't going to give up, and they had no idea what they were trying to destroy. I turned to Dr. Monroe, determination burning in my chest. "I need your help. We're not letting them take this away." He smiled, his face lighting up with respect. "Your grandmother was right about you. Let's protect her legacy." The next morning, I sat calmly in the lobby, waiting for them to arrive. Caroline, Edward, and their lawyers stormed in, their faces smug with confidence. "Olivia," Caroline began, her voice dripping with triumph. "We have proof that Grandma Margaret was mentally incompetent when she changed her will. This hotel is going to be sold." I looked at her, feeling nothing but pity. They had no idea what they were up against. "Actually," I said, standing up, "we should discuss that." I gestured, and Dr. Monroe entered, followed by a team of impeccably dressed individuals. "This is the board of directors for the Renaissance Foundation," I announced. Edward scoffed, his arrogance showing. "This place is bankrupt." "No," I corrected, my voice steady. "This place is the headquarters of the Renaissance Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to recovering and returning stolen cultural artifacts." Their faces went pale as Dr. Monroe presented the evidence: financial statements, international awards, letters of gratitude from families. The hotel's losses were the operating costs for a multi-billion-dollar recovery operation. Grandma Margaret wasn't failing, she was changing lives. Edward's arrogance vanished, his eyes wide with shock. Caroline sank into a lobby chair, her perfect composure cracking. "All this time. We thought you were worthless." I looked at them, my heart steady. "You were supposed to think that. Grandma Margaret needed people to underestimate this place to protect its real mission." I watched the truth sink in, their greedy plans crumbling. They would never touch this hotel. Grandma's legacy was safe. In the months that followed, the Regal Windsor Hotel transformed, but its secrets remained protected. We restored the public areas, keeping its cover as a historic hotel, while expanding the recovery operation in the hidden basement. Surprisingly, Edward asked to help once he understood the mission. His legal skills were useful for navigating international art laws. Even Caroline became an advocate, using her social connections to raise support for the foundation. As for me, I took my place as the head of Project Renaissance, just as Grandma had planned. I spent my days continuing her work, reuniting families with their lost heritage, preserving stories that had been stolen by history. Last week, I found one final note from her. Hidden behind the safe: "A hotel isn't just a building, Olivia. It's a keeper of secrets, a guardian of stories. And the most important story is the one we write by helping others reclaim their past. You'll write the next chapters better than I ever could. Love, Grandma." I smiled through my tears, feeling her presence with me. The regal Windsor stood proud once more, a place where lost stories found their way home. I looked around the majestic hall, now bustling with life and purpose, the hotel's true legacy thriving under my watch. They tried to bury me, not knowing I was the seed. They wanted to steal my inheritance, but I inherited the power to bury their ambitions. Grandma taught me well, revenge is best served cold, and from the top floor,